So here I was doing a dosing valve on a cat backhoe, and I already had took some parts off the exhaust, and I decided to go ahead and go grab my camera so I can make a quick video. This was the first time I was doing one, so here I am. Just find a good spot right here in this yellow step. I'm taking off all these bolts, which are primarily 16s as well as 13s. Uh, the 16s are held on. Later in the video, I'll be putting it back. So those are 13s I'm currently taking off. Slide that off. Now this is another cover on top, this black step. So I see that something's holding it up. So there's a bolt over here. I believe it was a 13, so I take that off. And it still doesn't come off, so I'm trying to pull it and it's not coming off. And that's when I see for the hydraulic lines there's a hold down that I'm touching right there. That's a 13 as well. And the bolt is threaded into this black step, so that's holding it down. So I go and I grab a 13 ratcheting wrench, trying to figure out how to get it in there. Now this wrench is bent a little bit, so it actually has a nice little offset that helps with that. So as I'm here just ratcheting it off, getting it to come loose, and it's a 2-part clamp. So it has these green bushings you see right now. I get a better look at it, better angle. So that one bolt on top and those 2 bushings, they sandwich the lines in to keep them from vibrating and rubbing through to each other. So here I am just finishing up taking them off. And with these lines free, that'll be able to pull this black step off, or the black cover. Now if you look on the bottom right of the screen, there's a bolt hole right there. That's a 16 millimeter bolt that also goes down, and it holds that little cover it's coming off with it as well, that locks into the body or the chassis of the cat. That piece I just pulled out right there. So I kind of had to lift up on the lines a little bit to pull that out. Now we have the exhaust right there. That's a stack. I just put all the parts out to the side, looking for this dosing valve. And it's right there. The light's kind of whitewashing it or blinding it. And it's covered in dirt, so here I am just blowing any dirt off, any debris to free up. Now these dosing lines, if you've ever done dosing lines, they're all pretty much the same, where it's a quick connect, so you push on it and it slides out. You kind of push in towards it a little bit, push the unlock or the lock, and with these you get a lot of dirt and stuff in it, so I like to shoot it down with some water. Same with electrical connectors. Just blow it out and then shoot it with some water to kind of rinse any debris out, and it helps a lot. Previous dosing valves I've done were in a tucked place, and you couldn't really do this because then it would be dripping on you. But I took the opportunity here just to shoot it down with some water. I stuffed some rags in there to catch the water so it doesn't make too much of a mess. And then here I am just wiping it up. Here I am pulling out some soaked rags, and I left a few in there in case when I pull the dosing lines off, if there's any residual DEF, it would just drip on there. The good thing is this is exhaust and it gets hot, so any residual water will steam off when the equipment is running. And here's another look at it, all cleaned off. You see the difference. So we're just trying to get any debris off. So right here you see the connector, electrical connector, and the two dosing lines. One comes in on a right angle fitting and the other one's a straight in. So one's a feed, one's a return. And here's the new dosing valve or doser from Cat. It's about $1,000. It comes with a new clamp, stainless steel clamp, new gasket, and the dosing valve. This was after lunch. They brought the part. Now the clamp, I believe it's a 5mm Allen or hex. So you could get a socket for that. Here I am just pulling the lines off. It's kind of difficult to get a better angle on that since you're just in there. And here I am getting the clamp loose using a swivel and an extension. And I just loosen it with the impact. Since it came with a new clamp, I wasn't going to reuse this one, so I was okay with taking it off with the impact. You'll see when I install the new one, I just use a regular electric ratchet because I do not want to cross thread those threads. The clamp has it's not a V-band clamp, but it has its own captured nut, and with any serious torque or on those, if you've used them, it will spin the tabs that locks them in. So I recommend just starting them by hand and then tightening them up with not something that doesn't have that much torque, such as an electric ratchet, not an impact ratchet, or just by hand with a regular ratchet. Now, since I hadn't done one of these before, I'm taking my time right here to see which order it's coming out and which way the clamps faced. I know that gasket came with the new one, so I'm looking to see how it came off. Now here's the dosing valve, the old one, the gasket on there, and the clamp was on that way. So this is the new one, and just take your time to kind of self-start this clamp, and here I am gonna try to put this on, and then I realize wait, it goes this way, and it goes on like that. And when you take the old one out, go ahead and wipe down the mating surface. And from a previous time I've done dosing valves, I've always just stuck like a pick in there to make sure there's not a snowball of DEF build up inside the SCR. So here I am getting this clamp started by hand a little bit, it takes some finessing to get in there, and I'm using a mirror just to make sure it's clear to go. And so I'm widening and I'm loosening this clamp so I can get it just about right before I start hand tightening it, because you want the dosing valve to be positioned correctly for the lines, because there's not a lot of wiggle room for line placement. So once I got it in there, being held on by the clamp, I'll go and you see just the extension, swivel, and the socket. Again, I think it's a 5 millimeter. Uh, a 5 millimeter Allen. I just start tightening it down by hand before I grab a electric ratchet and finish tightening it up. Right here, I have one of those leaks where you see it just drop down a little bit. It does it a few times. You get used to it, I guess. I've cut out some video from this uh, and sped up some parts because it's boring to watch. But here I am after getting it situated, clocking the dosing valve. So I pulled off that first cap and I'm putting in the line that is not a 90-degree. It's a straight fitting push and quick connect for the dosing line. I'm unsure if that's the return. Pretty sure it's the return since it's off to the side of the dosing valve and not straight into the injector. And I'm just clocking it so the line is connected and at the right angle. And then I had pulled off the second one, and I believe I connected at this point. Both lines are connected, and I'm just finishing hand tightening this clamp. Then I'll go get the reach for my electric ratchet and tighten that up. Now, a lot of people will crank down on V-band clamps or basically exhaust clamps. They don't have to be V-bands, but you don't want to tighten them till you can't tighten them no more, because with the heat expansion on exhaust, they will crack the clamps over time. So after everything's hooked up, here's putting it back together. Slide this step or this cover back under, position that hydraulic lines and the hold down for that, and getting that done first. And this is a little yellow cover with a 16 mil. Ratcheting down that line, hold down. Sliding on the yellow step. These are 13 millimeter bolts that hold this down. So I'm just hand starting them all so everything's aligned, positioning this flange that holds the exhaust in. and every so often you see the equipment kind of drop down because I have it raised up with the hydraulics and positioning this guard in the back. These are held in by 13 millimeter bolts as well, and they have nut threaded or welded onto the equipment. So then I'll switch over to the 16. And the swivel helps because some of them you kind of got to work around those hydraulic lines. This is the stack, positioning that. And there's 4 bolts that hold that in onto the cab of the equipment. So right here I'm kind of fighting it to position one in. So what I ended up doing was just getting a 1/4 inch extension, sticking it through to hold it in place, and then I go up on top and I start the 2 bolts on top, and then I'll drop down and start the 2 on the bottom. Now you always want to start these, well, any bolts really, you want to start by hand before you hit them with an impact or anything, because you do not want to cross thread them. So get the first few threads started by hand before you hit it with any electrical or air tools. So as that's secured, then I go ahead and tighten the 4 16 millimeter bolts that hold those 2 half circle cutouts, and all that's put back together. I'm walking around the equipment. As you see, I have it up so the hydraulics leak down. Here I'm getting into the cab, and I go to grab the scanner, speed this up. As you see on the dash right here, I have the 3 red lights on top of the gauges, and that was an issue. It had to stop engine and stuff. As I'm waiting for the scanner to load up, all the lights cleared, so I already knew that the problem was corrected because it was electrical code for the doser. I believe it was 3361. I asked my coworker here to drop my hood, lower this equipment down. And here I'm pulling up my outriggers. I'm getting ready to pull this machine out, but I have a truck behind me. That's what I'm mentioning here. So behind this bay, I'm opened up the doors, moved the truck, came back in, begin to pull out the equipment, and I'm not sure how long this equipment has gone without a regen, so I'm pulling it out the shop, and with our scan tool I'll activate a regen just to finish it off, and equipment is back ready for service. And with that, that ends this video.